Please wait. Hey, there we are. We haven't had this problem in a long time where I had to come to you guys in front 242 vision, but that happens every now and again. How are you? It is good to see you. It is good to be seen by you in the middle of the crosshairs. Yeah, we just had a little bit of an issue there, but regardless of whether you've got me in your sights or not, I, of course, am your Dungeon Delver, the host. And I hope you're having a good Monday evening. I'm doing okay. Technical issues aside, I'm doing all right. And if you guys super chat, the first person to super chat $20 will make the crosshairs go away. I don't know if it works like that, but anyway, salute. Good Monday evening to you, and I hope you're doing all right. Yeah, a guac glass makes the Guinness go down smooth. But anyhow, so I hope you're doing all right. So we're actually kind of changing format a little bit for Monday evenings. I have decided. This is what I have decided. Any RPG news that does not merit a freestanding special video all its own, or just generally cool things that are RPG adjacent, fantasy movies, that sort of thing, we're going to talk about those on Monday night. Now, something might come up Tuesday or even late Monday night. And if it merits a movie, if it merits a video of its own, then you'll get that during the week. But I just thought Monday, rather than spending the whole weekend agonizing over content to bring you guys, I can just bring you content that is good RPG news. And of course, we can banter back and forth because, you know, I got my eyes on the chat. I can see you guys out there, and I hope you'll stick around, and I hope you like this slice format change. But anyhow, so I hope everything is just hunky-dory. How's the tire situation, Dungeon Minister? A rather frightening-looking hole in your tread you showed on Twitter the other day. But anyway, but we'll get to that. Hey, speaking of guac merchandise, I actually had something gifted to the channel the other day, and you know what? I need to bring some stuff up real quick here. Let me find this and see if I can do it without knocking my pint glass over. This is a little substandard. I need like a little table, a little shelf over here I can put my cold drink on. But let's see if I can bring this up for you guys. But I hope you all had a fantastic weekend because I did. It was mostly A-okay. It was mostly pretty kicking. And I hope it was for you guys too. But anyway, so let me ask you guys something before we get to the little newsy things that that I want to, and that is this. Let me just put that on the desktop. Friday night. Okay, now this is not a complaint because you guys enjoy what you guys want to enjoy. But Friday night, it seems like nobody was really interested in Gamma World. Is Gamma World done? Are we done with Gamma World as a product that I bring to you guys? Are you no longer interested in Gamma World? Because I don't see a lot of return views on it. That video, that live stream is still only in double digits, and I think we peaked at like 11 people watching. And for most of the video, I had more people at the table than I had in the audience. And I'm not complaining at you, rather quite the opposite. I take that as a reflection of stuff that you guys don't like. And if you don't like it, I will change it. All right. broadly, what won't change about the show is the live stream focus on classic role-playing games. You're never going to get me in here singing the praises of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything or D&D Next or whatever, right? We're going to talk about AD&D and all adjacent associated goodness stuff. No, Kabuki, I know a lot of people tune it out. But I also know we've had as many as 20 or 30 people watching us play AD&D consistently on Tuesday night, which is coming tomorrow night, by the way. That is Return to Flight. So let me know what you guys think. Leave it down in the comments below. And by the way, speaking of the comments below and what you guys think, we're at 4,780 subscribers to the channel. I was floored when I saw that. 4,780. Thank you so much, guys. And if you're new to the channel, we live stream 5 nights a week. We do Let's Plays. We interview folks from all around the RPG industry. We have great guests. We have a co-host. Kyle is returning Wednesday night to his co-hosting duties. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to random it up. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. And I tell you, if by and large, and I'll put this to community votes on Twitter and on the community on YouTube. I'll even ask on Facebook, but it'll be just a binary question. Yes or no, Gamma World or something else. And if it's something else, then the party can ride off into that, on that orange colored sky, as it were. So just food for thought. Again, I'm not upset. I want to bring you guys the best show possible. So speaking of guac things, this is something cool. Again, I'm trying not to drop that on the floor or whatever. But speaking of guac things, now I have had Sky Hernstrom on the show before, and Sky is a sci-fi fantasy pulp author, swell guy, fun guy, and Sky is throwing a little merch down for next year's Guac 3. He's done kind of a Vaughn Bodie inspired sort of. It's a small thing. It's a small thing. Let me see if I can bring that up. Now he offered it for this year, but Dungeon Minister got it all. And this is not like in lieu of the stuff that Dungeon Minister does. This is actually in addition to. So Dungeon Minister, you're not fired. I promise you. Let me see if I can bring this up. Where is it? Come on. At least I'll try to find it. I said I'm going to find it. Now I can't. All right, let's see. Has attachment. All right. There it is. All right, so I'm going to download that. That's going to go to the desktop. Okay, so let me show this to you guys real quick, because I'm digging it. I am digging it. Share screen, entire screen, share. Check it out. I think it's pretty boss. I want that on some merch as well as Dungeon Minister stuff. So what do you guys think of that? Now, obviously, the 23 is not correct, but I think that's pretty cool. We're gonna get that on some 2024 merch again, in addition to what Dungeon Minister is going to do. Well, you know what? Let me ask the man himself. Dungeon Minister, what do you think of it? Because Dungeon Minister, like, I want your stuff too. So, yeah, let me know what you think of that. And I got to be super careful and not accidentally go to another photo. Because I have a lot of stuff on my desk, like maps and so on. I don't want you guys to see. Well, there's going to be lots of merch. All right, people can get the Monster Guac Bowl. People can get like the 2021 Guac Bowl. You're not off the hook. All right, nice try. Oh yeah, no. Do use that, Bill. Use that. Whew. No, you're not off the hook. You're still doing merch next year. So get your drawing pen ready. So I saw something today, and I wanted to share this with you guys. Y'all know how passionate I am about the Lord of the Rings. I do not like the Rings of Power. Amazon treated the Lord of the Rings with neither the respect nor dignity it deserved to be treated. I have never been shy about expressing my opinion on that. Now, I want to share with you guys, I've got to share with you guys something that I saw on Twitter today. Because I was floored. I was blown away by this. And I need... Team Delver, assemble. I need your input. I need your assistance with this. All I have are a couple of screenshots of this, okay? Now, J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, he's the titan of Western fantasy. I know he himself would say, look, go read Bullfinch's mythology, go read the Bible, go read Lord Dunsany, go read anybody's stuff but mine. They're just fairy stories meant to create a linguistic history for a Europe that never existed. I can assure you there's better fantasy than mine, to which we would say, quiet, Professor. I'm trying to read The Lord of the Rings, which is wonderful. And that's not just in Europe and the United States, right? That's not just for Led Zeppelin fans and granola hippies. No, it's worldwide. And yeah, I've seen, oh, what if The Lord of the Rings was an anime? And to be honest, the first major screen adaptation, not the first screen adaptation, but the first major screen adaptation of The Lord of the Rings was in effect an anime because it was made by Topcraft, and Topcraft actually went bankrupt. They didn't make enough money from Rankin Bass creating the Lord of the Rings, or rather The Hobbit, and later the Return of the King animations, but they became Studio Ghibli. So the Hobbit and the Return of the King are Studio Ghibli animations. I always thought that was cool. But imagine my surprise today when I saw something. And I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to show this to you guys. But this, frankly, was just simply amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And let's, we got to do it again because I closed the tab. If by horrible you mean awesome, Clark. Share screen. And see, this is the kind of thing that is just off the cuff that I don't really like, doesn't really merit its own entire episode because I don't have all the facts in front of me. And this is where Team Delver needs to help me out because all I have are these two images and a little bit of information. But I want you guys to look and behold. These are costumes. Look at Galadriel. She has the file of Galadriel. You've got Arendelle, Finrod. These are Chinese Tolkien super fans. They're not just cosplaying. This isn't just a beauty shot. They have made a fan film production or are working on a fan film production of the Silmarillion. And I love every bit of this. I have Googled these things and I can't find anything. It might be kind of behind the Great Firewall, you know, just little bits that have leaked out. But this is a Chinese cosplay club that is putting together their own production of the Silmarillion, and I think that is absolutely just gorgeous. I mean, you're not wrong, Bob. Okay, right now, I'd like if you said, okay, this is on YouTube or this is on wherever, you can go get this off of BitChute or Mega or whatever and watch it. I would watch this even if you said there's no English subtitles. I would still watch this because there is more good going on here in these costumes than the most expensive television production in history has accomplished. Do you see any chainmail t-shirts? Because I don't. Excuse me, scale mail t-shirts. There's a couple of shots, and it is a blink and you'll miss it moment, but it does focus on it long enough for you to go, wait a minute, of actors near the foreground. I'm not talking about way in the background, near the foreground in Rings of Power, where you can very clearly tell they're wearing a print t-shirt with scale mail designs printed on it because you can see like creases and so on. Like you can kind of see my shirt creased. I mean, this is just, and yeah, look, I get it. These are still images. There's a lot of retouching going on with these, but that's a Galadriel that I would love in despair. Okay. I mean, this is exceptionally well done. I think it's absolutely beautiful. No, sorry, and how can I confuse chainmail with scale mail? That's a whole different pattern to print on a sleeve shirt. Yeah, it was a scale mail equivalent of a tuxedo t-shirt, and these are just beautiful. And look, they've said they want to stay true to Tolkien's work, like as true as they can. Okay, Jackson said the same thing. And Amazon said the same thing. So I don't know if these folks are really, really for real feeling that or not. Okay, so we have a couple more. We have a couple more shots. Let me add this because there's a little bit of text here. There's a little bit of text. And I mean, other than like colors and weights, that is, it was light, it was heavy, you know, it was this color, it was that color. Tolkien doesn't really go into a great description of the clothes that the elves wear. Am I right? Or what? Now, look, I know that's a dangerous road to go down because we can then get into the whole, well, Tolkien didn't say, so we can interpret it any way we want to. And certainly J.R.R. Tolkien was probably not thinking of Chinese-style clothes for the elves, but it works. It's better looking than the Joann's Fabric homespun we're seeing in the most expensive television show ever made. So let's check this out. Let's check out the next pictures. Again, just stunning looking stuff. These guys, they definitely seem to appreciate Tolkien. John Stuart Keller, you're absolutely right. And you know, if I was so inclined, there's a rabbit hole we could go down. I remember when they announced the Teen Titans TV show, which I never watched, like my kids watched the cartoon. And I never read the comics, but they showed what the characters would look like, but someone compiled a side-by-side image of superfan cosplayers and what the characters looked like. And all I can say is to the people who made the new Teen Titans show, how embarrassing for you. How humiliating that must have been. Because it was like the difference between that and between what the fans did and what the show with the budget did is the same difference you're seeing with these Chinese cosplayers and what the most expensive television show ever produced created. How humiliating. God, how spiritually depantsing. But that's not the best part of this. The best part of this is what I want to show you here. We have thought of characters from the Silmarillion in our traditional Chinese Hanfu, so we've worked for a long time to make it happen. Finally, we did this. We did worry that it would be weird for these characters in Eastern Asian costumes, but it turns out it looks okay for us. Thank you so much to everyone for this project, especially cosplayers and photographers. Well, listen, from this Western grognard Tolkien fans' heart and mind, let me just say that these are gorgeous. These are simply gorgeous outfits that they've got. And I would watch every minute of this. But what do you guys think of it? What you've seen what I showed you, you know, this and the other photo. What do you guys think this is a good treatment? Do you guys think this is appropriate, as it were, an appropriate visualization of Tolkien? Because I kind of do, and I think it is way better. And so the question for you guys is does anyone out there, whether you're watching now, whether you're watching later, does anyone out there know anything about this? Because I have two pictures from Twitter that somebody scraped from Instagram that somebody found on the fan website. And I have Googled, and again, this may be behind the Great Firewall of China. This, it may just be that there's no getting to the source. You just have to, kind of somebody smuggle it over the, over the wall. Jimmy Invicta says, as a Tolkien purist, I like it. I think Tolkien would approve of it. Clark likes it. Kabuki. Yeah. So Kennex says flowing elegant clothing is completely, or flowing elegant clothing is completely else. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All I ask, though, is for Western swords. No katanas, please. I know they're Japanese. Don't at me. I'm just saying. Just Western style swords, please. But no, I found these to be beautiful and enchanting. I'm intrigued. I want to know more. So you guys, if you go back in the video and pause and make notes on what they're saying, on what's on the screen, then if you can find information out, please bring it back, leave it in the comments, ping us on the Discord, ping me on social media. I'm _Dungeon Delver on Twitter, Bill Sylvie on Facebook, bsylvie@gmail.com. It's scrolling right down there. So if you can find any information out, it would be greatly appreciated by this program. Bob Jester says, I approve of using hanfus for elvish attire. It really lends to the verisimilitude of elves being slightly alien from the Western-based world of Middle-earth. Certainly. Orbital Air, I think, takes a fair point of view. It's okay. It's not your favorite Tolkien, wanted an English epic. So I see the elves as more Nordic, blonde, blue-eyed, and tall. Well, they definitely strove for blonde with a great many of them, but there are some dark-haired elves. And I get where you're coming from. But again, I see this as far better than the most expensive television show ever produced and what they've accomplished. I will do that, Lux. I will check it out. Am I chugging prune juice? No, I'm not. You'll notice that I'm staying in my seat. I'm drinking Guinness. This is Guinness Extra Stout with the nitro capsule. Thank you. So I did get a proper proper froth on top. I'm not going to give you guys the opening by saying cabeza. And I thank you for the balanced response, Orbital. I mean, I think that look and a pure story, and I think now you may disagree, but I think a pure interpretation of the Silmarillion by people rocking this cosplay, and you could overlook the fact that they're not Nordic. I could. Anyway. Thank you. Insert name here. You are absolutely right. That goes up on the screen. The difference is this is another cultural, non-Western showing appreciation for Tolkien's work. The Amazon series was a willful ideological bastardization. There is not a thing presented in these images or in the brief statement we have from them that says, update for modern times and current year ways of thinking, which is all we got from Amazon Studios. Constant. Just kind of reading you guys. Yeah, so, I think we're in agreement Nordic or not Nordic, I think we're in agreement that both their hearts and their sewing machines are in the right places. Those are all lovely, lovely costumes. And I hope this just doesn't end in sizzle reel and cheesecake photos. I honestly hope they get a movie out, flip the middle finger to New Line, Time Warner, Amazon, and just publish the thing. Now, as I said on Twitter, if Gandalf looks suspiciously like Chairman Mao, I'm going to be disappointed. You know what I'm saying? Because they're just as capable of putting their own ideological thoughts into something. And if they're using state resources, and if you're in China, if it's made of molecules and atoms, it's considered a state resource, and that includes you, comrade. Then they may just be straight up told, you're not going to do that. So, no, and Orbital, I feel where you're coming from. I absolutely understand. It's not what you're expecting. There's a lot of people that hate the Rankin Bass The Hobbit because it doesn't look right. Which I know you're not saying you hate this. I'm just saying that people have expectations on what things look like. I mean, up until 2000, 2001, when Fellowship of the Ring came out, my inner monologue voice for every year's reading of The Lord of the Rings was Gandalf sounds like John Huston. Why? Because of the Hobbit cartoon and because of the Return of the King cartoon. Gandalf was voiced by John Huston. That's what he sounded like in my head. Jimmy Invictus, you have my axe and my sewing machine. I'll take your word for that, Lux. Gandalf would likely look more like Zhu Liang than Mao. And you have my stapler, I believe. Yes, Richard Boone will always be Smaug. With all respect to Bob Hope Crumble Bunch. Excuse me, Benihana Christmas Tree. No, wait, I'll get it in a second. Benedict Cherry Cola. Did I get it? That's close enough. With all respect to him, I know it's Benedict Cumberbatch. Smaug is Richard Boone. Nobody delivers his threat like Richard Boone did. Bendy Ditch Crumble Bunch. There you go. Benadryl Slumber Party. Benadryl Slumber Party. Hey, to be fair, I really like Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, so it worked for me. Is that the actor? Was that who played Doctor Strange? I can't remember. I think so. Bernadette can't be late. All right, so that's Chinese Tolkien, a Chinese view of the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. I hope their film gets made. I will keep you guys updated if you want me to. If I find out more information, do you guys want to hear more information? And I can let you know. I just wanted to just punch Sherlock. I'm going to get hate mail for this. I'm going to get unsubs for this, but I liked Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes. I did. So yeah, I'll if you guys want, I will keep you guys posted. Oh, hello, Jack Photon. I will keep you guys posted as I can find out anything at all about that production. So to move on, I thought about making a video about the next subject, which so I have to be very careful what I say. I mean, my live stream videos already make, like, unless it's supers. So I got to be real careful about what I say about the next topic. Oh, beam on down, Jack Photon. Very funny, Scotty. Now, beam down my pants. Wow, where to even start with this next bit? I can't completely blame this on Wizards of the Coast, which is why I didn't pull the fire alarm and drop a 12-minute video on this. I may still. Let me just set a timeline for you guys. I loved Baldur's Gate. I loved the first Baldur's Gate, primarily because I found out that, like, the very first release had a bug in it that let you just beat the crap out of the game. Yes, Bob, it is. Bob, give me a gun. Pow. Anyway, I loved the first Baldur's Gate. I have kind of a strained relationship with the second Baldur's Gate. There's a point in the second Baldur's Gate where it's sandboxy enough that if you go do a certain thing, you wind up in hell. And if you do that at the wrong level, you're essentially hosed. There's a fix for it where you grind random encounters. You don't go to the major fixed encounter, but rather you grind random encounters for a long time to level up your party. And then you can go do the fixed encounter. And when I got to that point, I was like, I found out that Baldur's Gate actually has a dev console. Baldur's Gate 2 has a dev console. Yep, 6 compact discs. I remember when it dropped on DVD, I was just like, I'll take that. Just run that on my DVD. Yes, my computer has a DVD drive. It wasn't even a DVD-R. That didn't come until like 2006, 2007. But anyway, so yeah, Baldur's Gate 2, like, I was grinding. And then I found out about the console and how you could just add XP to your character and level them up. And so I was just like, okay, I'll start doing that. And of course, every time you would camp, it would save. And then I kind of realized, I was like, well, if I'm just going to do that, I guess I could do that for every encounter that's too hard. But then this encounter, I feel like, was kind of a gotcha. And so I just flip-flopped back and forth, and I just kind of gave up because I felt like I had cheated to get to that point where I was tough enough to survive fighting the devils in hell. And I just kind of gave up on it in frustration with the intention of going back and starting it over again. But then I was like, yeah, but if I go here, and there were so many, it felt in places like a D&D horror story, which I have tuned those mostly out, but that's how it felt. So when I heard that a third Baldur's Gate game came out, now Baldur's Gate was released in '99, and AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, was 10 years old at that point, which is pretty long in the tooth. Pretty long in the tooth. Or was it 98? Maybe it was. Anyway, second edition was still around. Now, I could argue this with you, and you could argue at me, and I could argue back at you, that second edition is not fundamentally different from first edition enough that without the dross of complete kits and all the add-ons and skills and powers and all that crap that came in later, that you've still got a core experience that's very AD&D like. So I liked it okay because it was AD&D. Let me get my AD&D on. 98. Thank you, insert. When 2 came out, it was right on the cusp of 3, and I remember there were some 3E-isms in it, but there was not the full salad bar. We wouldn't get that, I think, until Icewind Dale. But Baldur's Gate 3 is, of course, it skips over 3 editions of Dungeons & Dragons, straight into 5e. It looked intriguing. It's hinted in the first Baldur's Gate that all the trouble in the world could stem from Mind Flayers. And then if you saw the teaser trailer for Baldur's Gate 3, yep, it's Mind Flayers, right? Mind Flayers are very hot right now. And I was like, okay, all right, we'll see where this goes. We'll see where this goes. I haven't had a good turn-based CRPG with the name Dungeons & Dragons on it in a long time. My heart was shattered by Temple of Elemental Evil. I'll do a Temple of Elemental Evil rant another time. Hail Lobster, Unbreaded, Michael Connor. We are unbreaded and having Guinness. So, it's been in development. Some people have talked about beta testing it. It seemed like the old days of CompSys, IBM, PC games, RPG. We're back high in the saddle again, and I was intrigued. Could I set aside my dislike of 5e enough to climb into the saddle again? We'll see, I thought. And then now, I want to be clear before I say what I'm about to say next. Yeah, Steel Mongoose knows what I'm talking about. I want to be clear about this. On the one hand, I know that the game was not developed inside the hollowed halls, not hallowed, of Wizards of the Coast. On the other hand, you cannot convince me, not for a single minute, that those degenerates didn't know what was being put into the game by the devs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a cutscene that was released, and the soy jacks in the audience cheered for this, which should tell you I'm going to steal a little something from a TV show that I absolutely despise, but if the shoe fits, wear it. How dare you boo me? I've seen what you people cheer for. In the cutscene, a character is having coital relations with a bear. If you want to hear that again, pause the video and back up, because again, I'm gonna lose all monetization on this one, guys. Now, the statement might be made, well, that's a druid. It's a druid, and their shape changed into that. Why not shape change out of it? Someone made the comments on the twits that, oh, when did RPGers become such pansies? When did they become such shrinking violets and such prudes? I am the guy who created the quote, I love Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because it's where the black magic is. And I list all of the stuff that Wizards of the Coast hates. Wizards of the Coast puts a PMRC style plea for forgiveness for daring to continue to publish AD&D on their PDF sales. This computer game, which is blessed by Wizards of the Coast, features something that sounds a lot like the Beastie Boys, if you say it. And don't bring me that, but their shape changed, Bill. And I don't care about the genders of the parties involved. It is pure, the most vilest degeneracy. It is utterly vile. It serves no purpose except to be unbelievably base. Not based, base. Again, don't boo me. I've seen what you people cheer for, not you people, obviously. This is where we're at. You know, let me state something unequivocally. In retrospect, I feel bad. Once upon a time, and you can find this on the Internet Archive, I did a text rant about the Book of Erotic Fantasy, and I feel bad about it because it was rather prudish. I still don't think you need a rule book. I think you should go touch grass. Like if you're like, let's put a rule book in the game where you can roll dice to see if you could get laid. Go touch grass. But if that's how your table rolls, this is beyond the pale. There is one other barrier that they could cross. There's one other line that they could cross. That is worse than this. I'm literally at a loss for words. And again, I wish I could say this was the bottom. But every time I think they break out a better shovel and dig further. And again, don't come to me and say, this is the developer. Because if Wizards of the Coast is in such poor control of their IP as to let the developer do this and come back with, oh my God, this is horrible, we had no idea this was going, then they're stupid. But I would rather believe that they're stupid than they're malicious, but I don't believe they're that stupid. So that only leaves us with one conclusion. It was on purpose. And it's not played for laughs. It's not like just a moment and the bear in question transforms back into a person. It's not implied. It's not fade to black. If we view the computer as the dungeon master in a game, I would leave that table, never come back to it, and warn everyone, regardless of what D&D they played, to avoid, because that person has some sick, sick stuff in their game. Cue the choir singing, "Oh Lord, send us thine asteroid, please." Yes. And so here's where we find ourselves. A company that is tacitly endorsing this. This is you now, Wizards of the Coast. This is what you are. You are passed out on the playground with a heroin needle in your arm. Is this what you wanted to be, Wizards? When Ryan Dancy was given his marching orders to not let Dungeons and Dragons die, damn it. Is this what you had in mind? Hasbro! You sell toys to infants and toddlers. You control some of the biggest toy franchises on the planet. Is this what you want to be? This is not some weird ass Easter egg buried down in the guts of the game files. This is not some dev popping off about hard left or hard right politics on Twitter. This is content in a game meant for children. Rusty Cage. You might have to update your song. Yes, I did just gulp down the last fifth of that. Need a strong drink. So yeah, that's that was something that happened. Now let me tell you something. Every single one of you, I promise you, If you follow inside baseball about the shenanigans that TSR got up to, if you for a minute believe some of the nasty rumors that circulated about Gary, business practices, backstabbing, dirty deals, family issues, and you said, oh, how horrible, and you're not completely divesting yourself of Wizards of the Coast right now, because they have a scene depicting Animal, Sierra, Echo, X-Ray in a video game that will be played by kids. I don't know what to tell you. Damien says, I play Exalted and I won't excuse that crap from BG3. I know exactly what you mean. I have skimmed through enough Exalted books to know what you mean. That's an Exalted fan is coming at you there. Local Gumby, that's awesome. That gives me something to smile about. Lux Armok says maybe WotC is trying to position itself to buy Fatal. That makes me happy. That's something positive. Found your boxes of second-edited Warhammer 40K and Space Hulk and your Greyhawk maps you thought you'd lost to the ether many decades ago. That's awesome. What Space Hulks do you have? Do you have second, third, first with expansions? Anything you'd like to donate to the Delver's Dungeon? That's awesome. And, it was just a simple, for me, getting me back into AD&D was literally me finding a copy of the Player's Handbook that didn't belong to me because I didn't have one when I was a kid. And my second ever copy of Keep on the Borderlands. Finding those on a shelf, well, the book was sitting on a shelf, but I never looked at it until I found the module in the bottom of a box. Sometimes finding those things will just spark you and get your mind just rolling. Insert name says, I'm curious how much the slaying the dragon was accurate. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll tell you this. There's a 2-part article. It's as old as the hills about the beginning of Wizards of the Coast. And it kind of pointed in this direction. Not this acutely, but just the type of people. But anyway. Michael Connor. I'm not sure, but I like the way you're thinking, buddy. My youngest had me to play 5th Ed or play 3.5 minis rulebook was the last thing they got my money on. After that, forget it. Good for you. Teach them AD&D. Raise your kids up right. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, baby. You know what I think the most hilarious thing about Magic the Gathering is? They created the game as a quick cash grab so they could have enough money to print an expansion for Robo Rally. They literally thought it would be like they'd sell out of it. This was in like the early mid 90s or very early 90s. They were just like, yeah, Robo Rally was a huge success, but the boards are so expensive and the boxes are so expensive, so we should just maybe come up with a little game that will fund our big seller, which is Robo Rally. Found your second ed books too. How about Realms of Chaos? How about Realms of Chaos? Probably one of the best supplements ever put out. Next to the hardback missions book for Space Hulk. That was the best. Actually, Realms of Chaos is the third best. The first is, of course, Rogue Trader. The second is Space Hulk missions. And the third is Realms of Chaos. Tried to find the owner. The name on the inside cover was Lady Elowin. Never found her, and I'm sure an elf would have stood out in high school back in the mid-90s. I bet, right? Well, we've almost got 30 people watching. Hello, and welcome to you all. By the way, if you're watching, like if you just followed a link from Facebook or if you came over from YouTube, please click the subscribe button and click the bell icon for notifications. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can support us via Subscribestar. You can support us via Patreon. They're all the crab is pointing at where they're at. It sure helps. Would I dare live stream TMNT and other strangeness? If I could get a solid PDF, I would absolutely deep dive it. I have a physical copy on the shelf behind me. No, I'm not going to dig it out because we all know where that leads. Books cascading down on me. Guys, we've got some interesting show changes coming, studio changes in the show coming. And I know that this has just been the way for like a year, but we're going to be doing things just a tad bit differently. Maybe when I get a little bit more equipment in, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. But this is going to be this weekend in 4E Dark Sun. My character set off some traps by hurling a fallen foe's corpse through a hallway, setting off pressure plates. Rocks fell, no one died. That is standard D&D operating procedure. It's like, all right, we're going to pick up the orc's body and just, swing him by his wrists and his ankles and throw him into the hallway. And if he's cut into 3 unequal segments by rotating blades that come out of the wall, floor, and ceiling, No, it's not a green screen, GM Van. It's not a green screen. And yes, please do click the like button. Leave me a comment down below if you like the content and tell me what you like about it. And we'll do more of it. And if you don't like it, well, I'll try to do less of it. But to reiterate what I was saying earlier, the change, one of the changes that's coming is, and again, we're going to we're going to move to a format where Monday is RPG news, fantasy news. Like, if there's a movie coming out or that has come out, or if I've seen a movie, I will give you guys a review of it in the live stream. I'm thinking, now tell me if this is something you guys would like. I'm thinking about doing a thing where I could like do a call-in show on Thursday nights when we don't have a guest, is do like Open line, first hour call in, and then second half of the show, second hour, deep dive, analysis, whatever. Wednesday, of course, when he can make it, is Kyle. Tuesday will remain AD&D and a little preamble ramble. I'm still on the fence about what to do about Gamma World, because Gamma World bombed. Gamma World bombed hard, which, again, that's not a you guys thing. If you don't like that content, I won't put that content out there. I'll give you guys other better stuff to watch. Maybe Friday should just become a free day again, and we shouldn't worry about streaming an RPG. Although I will say Jack Photon kind of expressed a thought of running some Star Trek, which I would gladly play. Found a new game shop in Clearwater. They have 40 used RPG. Every single one is vamp. Oh, man. Oh, that is a hurt for you, brother. But yeah, there'll be a little bit of a change up coming soon. Nothing has happened to Gamma World, Jimmy. It's just that now it could have been a quirk, right? We could come back in on Friday, and because we just like peaked out at like 32 viewers, which for me is good numbers, right? We could come in Friday and I get like $500 in supers, and we have 40 people watching, and everybody's enthused, and people want to pay for funny character deaths, or pay to roll up weird mutations for characters or what have you. And if that's the case, that's the case. I'm not going to let the show live or die by a single one. But again, if things are still trending down on Fridays, I may change it up to keep you guys happy, to keep you guys pleased. Local, okay, see, so local likes the Gamma World. Clark likes the Gamma World. And I understand that, Bob. Lloyd Tancred says Star Trek game was pretty decent. Haven't played in a long time. I have over here. You guys can probably just see a little bit of the box. I have a now complete, I might point out, thank you, Jack Photon, very much. I have a complete Star Trek the role-playing. By the way, I don't want to, I don't want to reveal any Batcave secrets here. I'm gonna show this to you guys real quick. We actually did a deep dive of this way long ago, once upon a time. If I can, where is it? Is it tabletop? There we go. I have this bad boy right here, which now has complete maps in it. But Jack was kind of showing me his studio setup to give me some suggestions for my studio setup. Oh my God, he has so many boxed copies of the FASA Star Trek, the RPG. I was like, wow. You guys see the big, like, people come in here and they see like the stack of players handbooks I've got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I think there's a 10th one over here. No, there's not, but I've got 9. I've had as many as a dozen. But yeah, that was his wall of FASA first edition boxed Star Trek. It was nuts in a good way. It was so cool to see. No, not FGU. FGU didn't do Star Trek, Bob. Yes, FASA. Vincent, do you not know what FASA is? Bought 9 of the box sets. Good Lord. Well, so I found out that FASA actually sold the map sheets separately. And so when I went looking on eBay, I was like, oh, the map sheets are gone. Because I looked through all the stuff that box came in, the map sheets were not there. and I couldn't find them, but I went looking on eBay, and everybody that was selling them separately was selling them more than it would have cost me to get the FASA first edition Star Trek the role-playing game, which was still expensive, right? It was like, well, I could buy a whole new box set of the game for $75, or I could buy a set of the loose maps for $100. So Vincent, FASA was an enormous role-playing game company, started by Jordan K. Wiseman back in the early 1980s. They had some weird property. They had Star Trek sewn up, which is a strange thing to get. And they basically stole it out from under Amarillo Design Bureau. Now, I'm not going too far into inside baseball. Amarillo Design Bureau asked Paramount if they could make Star Trek or Starfleet battles, and they said, "Okay, here's what you can do. You can just use what's on the TV show and the TV show only, and the Starfleet technical manual," or maybe not even that. The Star Trek blueprints, I think. I don't think it was called that at the time. Starfleet technical manual. So no novels, no comics. And they said, cool. Well, FASA cut a deal with Paramount and said, hey, can we make a role-playing game based on the movies, make up our own stuff, just do whatever? And they're like, sure, go ahead. So here's Amarillo Design Bureau going, and FASA's like off inventing new Klingon languages, writing new Star Trek lore, making modules and books based on the movies. Such a kick in the crotch to them. And yes, they did end up losing it. Yes, they had Doctor Who, they had Battletech, Shadowrun. They had an amazing little sci-fi game called, well, I say little. Here's the thing. FASA was so big, and we're going to have to wrap this up here in a little bit, but FASA was so flush with popularity that, like, during Battletech's reign, they created a competitor to Battletech called Renegade Legion, which was a sci-fi game set in like the 61st century or something. You had aliens. It started out as a space fighter game, but they later added a tank game, Renegade Legionnaire. I think, no, the role-playing game was Renegade Legionnaire. But they had a tank game that used the same principles. Like if the tanks had force fields and could be dropped from orbit, kind of like Mexican and Battletech. So you could potentially have the tanks shooting at fighters and fighters shooting at tanks because they used the same combat mechanics. They had a strategic game. They had a giant space battleship fighting game. They had 3 or 4 novels and 2 computer games for it. And yet most people I talk to are like, Renegade, I've never heard of that. So FASA's, like nowadays, if you released a game that had all of that stuff and 2 computer games from major publishers, that would be an unqualified success for a role-playing game. But back then it was just kind of, it's just another game FASA put out, you know? I've heard that, Jimmy. And yes, Renegade Legion was fun. But yeah, FASA was an enormous company, an enormous RPG company. I don't know how they stacked up compared to TSR. because I wasn't paying attention to TSR at the time. I was into FOSSA games. But they did have strange licenses. You know, 2 of their tactical board games were kind of odd licenses. They actually had a Top Gun license. They had a Top Gun hex-based war game, which included conversions from modern fighters and bombers to Battletech. Not a lot of armor, but the weapons were not bad. I think a Sparrow missile did like 4 points of Battletech damage, which is absolutely enough to give a light Battletech fighter pause. And then they had The Last Starfighter, which was more of a mini game. It was more of a pocket game. But they had a lot of they had a lot of interesting games. Stellar 7, I do. Stellar 7, there's a Battletech tie-in for you. Stellar 7 was written by Dynamics, who, based on Stellar 7, because they could work with 3D, got the first Battletech Battlemech sim, and then they lost that license to Activision. Now, Eric, God rest his soul, told me he knew some of the Dynamics programmers and said they were all great people. They were all really nice people. Well, they turned and they created their own Battlemech sim, Earth Siege. There was Earth Siege Battledrome. There was Earth Siege 2. I believe there was an Earth Siege 3. But the entire Tribes video game franchise is part of that same universe. Tribes 2, all of that came from the Earth Siege universe. And there were not 1 but 2 tabletop Earth Siege war games. So they had a little renaissance. They didn't just dry up and blow away. Oh, and plus they had some strategic chit and hex computer games, you know, like turn-based Earth Siege computer games. Yeah, FOSSA only dipped their toes into fantasy kind of from the side with Shadowrun, which I know many of you know, and Earth Dawn. David Nixon, you were reading ahead, you naughty young man. Yes, Earth Dawn was their D&D attempt, if you will. Now, they also, literally at the edge of collapse, they had a couple more franchises. They did Vor, the Maelstrom, which was their attempt to 40K things, which I should have bought some of those I should have bought some Vor box sets when that's VOR, not VORE, please. We've had enough degeneracy for tonight. But Vor the Maelstrom, the Maelstrom, the slot's blown open, blah. And they had a Crimson Skies, which actually got picked up for a computer franchise, but not fast enough to save them. Crimson Skies was an alternate World War II never happened. And people don't really think about this, but the US and Great Britain were not the best of friends in the 1930s. But what does happen is the United States balkanizes. Every state becomes its own country. And because there's no real incentive to create jet engines, Germans don't do it. Up into the late 1940s when the game takes place, you're still flying monoplanes and biplanes around. So that was Crimson Skies. But there was a Crimson Skies tabletop game, but this was all right at the end, and then they collapsed, more or less. Good night, Bob Jester. Be well. Was 4. I don't know if 4 was any good. I only wanted it for cheap sci-fi minis because the FLGS was blowing them out. They literally had like a pallet load, and they were selling them for like $20, and you'd get like 30 minis. And I really just should have said, you know what, here's a hundo, I'll take these, and gutted them, and then I'd have a bunch of sci-fi minis that I'd never use. Or paint, for that matter. But anyway, yeah, so that is a capsule rundown of FASA. Now, I mentioned this actually in a YouTube comment, and I've talked about this before. When Macross got popular in Japan, and Hasbro, or they may have been Playmates. No, I think it was Hasbro. Just started licensing designs because transformable robots were cool. So they just started licensing designs and bringing them over to the United States. And Macross itself began to creep in. And then Harmony Gold said, hey, we want some of that Robotech action. So Harmony Gold went to Japan, went to Bandai, and was cutting a deal. While they were doing that, see, Jordan Wiseman and his dad went to Japan. They saw they saw Macross too. Macross also came back to the United States and started looking for who was selling Macross in the United States. We want a license from them. And so they found a company called 20th Century Imports, and they were like, yeah, I guess we are. Sure, you guys can use the designs. Knock yourselves out. And TCI sold little battle mech models, little HO scale battle mech models. They might not be HO. I don't know what scale they are. They were about that tall. And so FASA took all the designs, took all the clip art, put them into Battletech. And then Harmony Gold turned around and said, we licensed this already. FASA said, we got a license too. And so it went back and forth in courts. And finally, because FASA would win on technicality because they had a contract, and 20th Century Imports had a contract, and 20th Century's Imports contract was very vague on many points. So they, rather than get involved in Japanese contract law, the judge just kept saying, okay, it's legal. Harmony Gold, who had tons of money, would turn around and sue FASA again. And finally, FASA won, and the court case got dismissed with prejudice, in which case the judge said, look, it is perfectly fine. They have changed the designs by at least 30%. That's fine. Stop suing them. You can never sue them again about this Battletech issue. Harmony Gold said, not a problem, Judge. You're right. Harmony Gold went to Playmates and said, make some toys for us. These designs, change them 30%. They were FASA's own battle mech designs. FASA saw the writing on the wall and knew if they started a round of lawsuits against Playmates and Harmony Gold, that they would get dragged through the same meat grinder and lose their pants. So they stopped using all of the Macross designs, even though they were legally allowed to. Yeah, Dark Tower was another one that got scuppered by lawsuits. Dark Tower basically was invented by a couple of guys who said, hey, what about a Dungeons and Dragons kind of game where the DM is an electronic calculator that sits in the middle and you push certain buttons to execute certain programs on it? That would be real cool. We want to show you a prototype. And then Milton Bradley said, nah. and then set their engineers to making that game. Well, very briefly during this time period, they made it, marketed it, sold it. The guys who made and marketed and patented the original went to a judge and said, pardon us. It seems that they've ripped us off. So they had to stop making it. After a limited number were sold, this is when D&D was high in the saddle, right? Everybody at home wanted a piece of that pie. So they sold hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. But then they had to stop. So if you find it, it's not cheap. There's a cottage industry of companies that have arisen that remanufacture or outright sell replacements for the computer system inside the tower to keep your Dark Tower working. But finally, they released a Dark Tower 2, which, as is pointed out, is $300. It ain't cheap. I ain't going to be reviewing it on the show anytime soon unless I get one of them good scratchies, right? But anyway, there was, for a long time, there was a Flash version you could play online, but of course you can't, Flash doesn't work anymore. But if you go digging around, you might be able to find it. Yeah, Jetfire was just a VF1 Valkyrie Veritech that was... they just said, oh, it's a transformer. It's more than meets the eye. And this one turns into a car. And this one turns into a boombox and a gun and a cassette and blah, 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 blah. Which is why there was no... There were no Macross Valkyrie toys because Jetfire. Or there was no Jetfire toy because Macross. Here in the States, it was a mess. It was a weird mess. I'm just kind of catching up on y'all's comments. Oh, that's cool, Kabuki. Anyway, well, you know what? I have the next best thing to Dark Tower, and it's officially licensed. I have the Dungeons & Dragons Electronic Labyrinth. Thank you very much. But anyway, we're probably going to wrap up there, guys. Listen, thank you very much for watching the show tonight. Please, 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 if you're not subscribed, please do click the subscribe button. Click the bell icon for notifications. Please consider supporting us on Patreon or Subscribestar. You can always super chat. You can super tip. You can buy me a coffee if you want. Tomorrow night, we return to the Keep on the Borderlands with our live play session of First Edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. The party, as always, is in peril. Who will survive and what will be left of them? You'll find that out tomorrow night. Wednesday night, Kyle returns, the return of Kyle. And we are all looking forward to that and checking in on Kyle. We're going to do some random stuff, I think, again. We're going to show you guys the awesomeness of creating your own demons, your own magic swords, and possibly even your own artifacts in AD&D and why it's important to embrace the randomness. Thursday night, I haven't decided yet. Friday night, Preamble Ramble, and then we're going to play some Gamma World. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to see how the Gamma World game proceeds. And I hope you guys will all stop by and watch Gamma World if that's what you want. So again, thank you all very much. And you know what? I think we're gonna let friend of the show Bob Antone and his golden voice sing us out of here, and let us let us see if there's any way we can find our owl bear.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.